Always forget to put in my mic. But how is everybody? Welcome. I don't think that anyone's waiting just because I just started stream and I never advertise things properly. I need to hire someone as admin for my channel when I start making any money or profit or anything from this. But I'm just gonna open the video and I'm gonna put this through to Twitter. Welcome, Critical Cripple. Hope you're doing well and hope you've been having a good morning so far. It's been very mediocre here in isolation, doing nothing but drinking alcohol way too early. But it's a Saturday, so who cares? Welcome, Nerdy Rodent. I hope you're having a good morning as well. You need more sleep? You should go and get some more sleep. You know what? I do need a dog. I want a therapy dog. Do you think I could get a therapy dog? The only thing is that my room is really tiny and the place that I live is very outdoorsy actually because there's a lot of parks and stuff, but I don't think I'd be allowed a dog, at least not right now, not with all the favors my landlord is currently doing for me, and he's not for having big pets anyways. And a dog, no matter what size, would be considered a big pet. I'm just gonna tweet this out and then I can converse normally. But we will be doing a reading today. I have a story picked. It's called Fork Road. It was a story that I wrote, well, I started 3 years ago and updated as late as 2018. At least according to what it says. But I'm ready to read it, and at some point I need to do a Google deep dive into all of my written work, because there's a fair few fan fictions in here that I completely forgot about and would be really cringy and funny to read. So yeah, we will be doing a live reading, but I'm just waiting for people to pile in. I know usually I typically go for these kind of live streams on a Sunday, but tomorrow we're actually being joined by the guys from the You Don't Love Me podcast, Amir and Amir, who are two gay ex-Muslims who I've invited on. I've been on their podcast twice. I have an episode with them coming out I think the first or second week of April. I'll tweet about it or post it to the community page on my channel when it does go up. I'm very, very excited for you guys to sort of encounter that episode because I thought it was really, really interesting. It's all about my journey as an ex-Muslim and shunning, and it doesn't matter how many times I do those kind of interviews, I always come across people who ask me all kinds of different questions. So I'm very interested to see what the reactions are, and their crowd is very, very different to the typical ex-Muslim crowd because they are, left-leaning, they're more in the social justice spectrum, they're more integrated into the LGBT community, and I want to learn more about that. I want to understand more about that, having come out as bi only last year. I'm very new to the alphabet community, so I would like to know more about them and see where they go. I don't mean to say the alphabet people maliciously, by the way. I'm just I never know how to be appropriate. But how is everybody? I know Ahmed09 has just joined us. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good time. I don't actually know which country you're based in. What time is it there and how are you doing? I should have made my drink a little stronger. But I don't know if I can, because I'm live streaming from my phone. I don't know if I can actually screen share. I don't think I can. But it would be nice for me to do a live stream where I screen share so you can read along with me. I guess I should give some context to this story. So this story kind of kicked off. I meant for it to be a story that is like a sequel to a fan fiction I wrote, but this one was not written as a fan fiction. Like I replaced all of the characters and I constructed a story that was similar to the source material, but not so similar that you can pick it out. I'm not going to say what fan fiction it was. I'm going to leave you to guess that because I don't know if it's super obvious and I would like to know if it's super obvious. But I was really, really into this story, and I do want to say that it's not fully fleshed out in all of its concepts. It's around this world of paranormal and conspiracy. So it's like these alternate, like, ruling powers in the world, like all these secret services. That's what it's based around. And they have, well, I'll read it so you'll see all the nitty gritty of it. But a lot of the concepts, because I was essentially a kid when I wrote it, it doesn't some of it is just not fleshed out as a concept. So especially in terms of like government things and the way that things are handled, I haven't grasped that. And I think I finished writing 17 chapters. We probably won't read all 17 today, but what we may do is read a few chapters and then we can have a little review. Like, these chapters are quite long also. They're very bulky chapters, which what I noticed from the last live stream that I did like this, you guys really like that. So what I'll do is what I've normally done is that I'll read one chapter, we'll have a discussion, read another chapter, and then we'll do this for an hour and a half, which is standard time for me to do a live stream. And yeah, I think that this is a story that you guys would like. It's a pretty long story. It's not a completed story because I got stuck on how I wanted to complete it because I couldn't decide who I wanted to kill off the most. That was my biggest conundrum in this story. Maybe we could have a vote and I can actually finish this. But I got pretty close to the end. It definitely needs a rewrite because, again, a lot of the concepts aren't fully fleshed out. But it was one of the stories that I was really, really proud of and I was really working hard to work on. But once the muse kind of left me, it left me, and this is completely unfinished. And if it ends up that I don't finish this, please feel free to steal this concept and write a story of your own, around this. Like, obviously don't steal my first 17 chapters, but feel free to steal the concept and make your own world. But I had like an interconnected universe with the other stories that I wrote that centered around a specific character and different versions of that character in different dimensions. And it was just so, like, my base character that I loved, a story that is very, very close to my heart that I wrote is the story around a character called Marika de Saint Omer, who is a mercenary and she's part of a completely different universe. But I found myself making this character in all of my other stories, but in a different world. So they had a different look, they had a different feel to them, but they were essentially the same underneath. They were the same kind of character. They're very complex. They're very central to all of the stories. This one, she's not a main character in this story, but she's a very important side character. So yeah, the more you delve into my work, the more you'll be exposed to this sort of character. She was my main way of, I feel like, coping with all of the things that I was going through. So that's what I based a lot of my stories around, was this one character who's constantly just struggling. But I'm going to dive into the chat before I start reading that chapter, just to welcome everyone who's in here. Welcome Mike the Random Guy, welcome Thomas. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intelligent do you think you are? I don't consider myself intelligent because there's just so much that I have to learn. I mean, mentally, I've always been quite mature as a person. Like, even as a child, I was quite mature. But I feel as though my 20s are where my real teenage years are coming out. Like, last year I had my first crush. I only started drinking alcohol very recently. I started rebelling and doing crazy stuff with my face and hair and my body very, very recently. So I don't know. I don't know if I can call myself intelligent, but I guess if we were to just generally say, I don't think I'm dumb. I don't think I'm absolutely stupid. Depends what situation it is. But yeah. And in terms of gullibility, I'm not a very gullible person, but it also depends who's lying to me. If it's a very close friend to me who's like playing a trick on me, I can be very gullible. But if it's strangers and people that I don't really know very well, I'm very suspicious. I have mad trust issues. We call those mad trust issues where I come from. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and dive into the story. Thank you for everyone who's here. Make sure you like and subscribe and you stick around. Get comfortable. Grab a blanket. Grab a drink. Have a snack. Glass of wine if you want. It's a Saturday, so who cares? But anyway, so this is Fork Road and the chapters don't have names, just chapter 1. He watched her. He had been watching her for some time now. The woman sitting some 7 or 8 tables away, wondering what to say to her and how. He was one for conversation. He was never one for conversation, much less when it came to her. By the look of it, she was bored, but smiling. She was a rare breed of human that enjoyed, even relished, boredom. She looked the same when he'd last seen her, a few years ago. Same pale face with the raised cheekbones, same disproportionately large brown eyes, same short brown hair, though he always thought she would look better with long hair. He observed her composure, slouching, drink in one hand, the other arm resting high up on the backrest of her chair, one leg over the other, a thin, faraway grin pulled across her face, eyes looking in the direction of the caterwauling performer on the stage, but vacant a million miles away from here. She had paid no attention to anyone else around her for the last 15 minutes or so, even though she was quite popular with the roving eyes of all the ogling pricks around her. Making a decision, he downed the last few drops of his drink, put down his glass and made his way towards her. Trying to do so without kicking up a fuss, at any other time, on any other occasion, she would have heard him coming, but as lost to the world as she was, she didn't so much as twitch from her position. "Have you room for one more, Agent Cross?" he asked. She moved her head as if she had been disturbed by something, like the response one might receive when trying to wake someone from a deep slumber. He kept his patience before she shook her head and brightened. "Hans Schmidt," she cried, straightening in her seat, her smile broadening into something more meaningful. "What are you— I don't even know what to say. It's been so long." Hans sat down, placing his hands down on the table. "Indeed it has, Amanda." A sense of rekindled affection made him smile a little at her greeting. "How have you been? Not exactly poring over work, if you have time to kill in the recreation facility." "I've been good, much better than when we last met, sort of," Amanda replied. "Work's been slow, a lot of recon missions and false alarms, and then there's—" she gestured with her head at the stage, "you know. What about you? Finally got bored of Montreal, I reckon?" Han laughed. "Please, I was bored of Montreal before I started there." Amanda put her drink down and folded her arms on the table. "How long has it been? 2, maybe 3 years? For a man so sinister-looking and sinister-sounding, you sure do have some patience. There's no way I could be cooped up in that building with all those people for so long." "Duty calls, and you don't have to tell me. I have experience in your introversy." "I am not an introvert. I do work with people," Amanda said. I just prefer certain types of people that fit certain descriptions, usually non-sinister types." Han raised his eyebrow. "And I suppose I'm an exception." "Oh no, of course not. What would give you that ridiculous idea?" "I'm so sorry. What would give you that ridiculous idea?" Amanda laughed. "I'm just happy to see you after so long. Call it a novel moment. Don't worry, the world hasn't gone mad. My abhorrence for you will soon surface, and all will be righted." He rolled his eyes. "It's good to know you haven't changed." Amanda looked at her hands and said, "I don't suppose you just came to meet an old frenemy. What are you doing here in Philly, hon?" "Amanda, I'm hurt. You say that like you don't want me here." "Let's go with the notion that I don't. Amanda, is that really how you feel? Puppy dog eyes on that face?" Amanda snorted. "My God, you really are trying hard." Hans smiled a small, smug smile. "Don't you want to linger in your idleness a while longer? I'll get to my true motives in a moment, perhaps. Somewhere more private." He paused a moment. "It's confidential business. Up until you said confidential, I was under the impression that you were trying to hit on me." Amanda gave an exaggerated shudder. Now that would have been creepy. Amanda, can we please converse as adults? I thought we were. Mature adults. Give it 10 minutes, will you? Amanda laughed. Let the novelty wear off. Besides, Lisa's with me. We agreed that we'd keep all this under wraps when she was around. Lisa? Is that what she calls herself now? Mm-hmm. I suggested it on the idea that her name couldn't be shortened. What are you talking about? Pauline only has 2 syllables. Your name has 3. Yes, but you can shorten my name without making me sound like a dude. You can call me Mandy or Amy or even Cross. Lisa would be stuck with Paul or Lean. Han put his head in one hand. You'll have to excuse me, he hailed a waitress. I can't do this sober. Amanda shrugged. You're about as much fun either way. She paused a moment before asking, I've been meaning to ask you, how's Elena? Han blinked. She's fine. Uh-oh. What? Did she say she's fine? Han hesitated. You know, he shrugged in a bid to throw up a nonchalant facade. Teenagers. I do know. I used to work with them, but ignoring her isn't going to help you. And who's implying I ignore Elena? She's fine? I'd say you're implying that you're ignoring her. Han gave her a look. No, really. Who's been telling you about my daughter? Your daughter has been telling me about your daughter. The waitress had returned with Han's drink on a small circular tray. He picked up the glass and said, Keep these coming, and downed the beverage in one gulp. Isn't that a bit dramatic? Amanda asked. Han ignored her. What could Elena possibly be telling you? Sorry, if I want to stay friends with her on Facebook, I don't think I can tell you in details, Amanda said. I told her to get rid of that advocate for wasting time, Han grumbled. Just because you think it's a waste of time doesn't mean it is, Amanda said. It's not like she hates you. I'm just her bitching post. It's just what teenagers need. She paused a moment to observe Han and then rectified, It's what everyone needs. I've had enough of this, Han said. Can we please find somewhere to talk in private? Amanda, someone called, approaching the table. A young woman in her early 20s, blonde hair, brown eyes, quite tall and thin. Han noted her look of youthful naivete. He always envied that look as much as he resented it. Did you see me up there? Did you? Oh, you have company. And do you remember Hans Schmidt? Amanda said, introducing the two. Han, Lisa Anderson. Han shut his eyes and bit his lip. Allow me a moment. You renamed her Lisa, only to call her Andy anyway. Lisa blinked and muttered to Amanda, I remember you telling me that this is the guy you don't like. It's a love-to-hate relationship, Amanda replied, facing Lisa. Remember when we first met? I was holding a gun to your forehead? Right, Lisa nodded. Well, when Han and I first met, he invited me into his lovely home, ordered me food and offered me a drink, only the drink was spiked with a very powerful narcotic which can both knock you senseless and help you spew your innermost secrets, Amanda sighed. And the novelty has finally worn off. I hate you, Han. Han gasped. About time. Nothing is more awkward than your strange displays of verbal affection. Did you guys date? Lisa asked, laughing. Amanda rolled her eyes. Very funny, she said, but no. We hugged once after I killed someone. Very traumatizing, let me tell you. And that is as close to physical affection I think we can get. However, Amanda, Lisa scoffed, you've been sitting here for 2 hours. It's karaoke night. Why don't you join in? Can't. Han cut in. Amanda is known for being distant and uptight. Oh, Amanda grimaced, because you're the super chipper heartthrob diva of the Sass Queendom. Han gave her a look. I don't know what any of those words mean. If I take too many goofs on stage, people will stop taking me seriously, Lisa, Amanda explained. I'm already on Talbot's piss list for fighting with your friends, enemies. What are they? She finished her drink. It's getting late. I think I'm going to turn in. But, Lisa began to protest. Look, Amanda said, I'm not 20 anymore. I have work to stress about, sleep to lose, and stuff to do. Lisa pouted. You used to be fun. Yeah, used to be. You know that if you stay up past 3 a.m., I will lock the door of your room. Is this about that one time? Yes, Amanda cut in. Yes, Andy, it is. And we agreed not to speak of it again. Lisa snorted. All right, Amanda. Just don't wait up. Probably won't be sleeping in my room tonight anyway. Amanda didn't supply a response, and Lisa didn't wait for one. The younger woman just went back from where she had come. Amanda stood up. You wanted that place to talk? Han nodded, left a few dollars under his empty glass, and followed Amanda out of a large set of double doors at the end of the crowded room. He took in the whitewashed walls, the striking white tiles, and the shadeless bulbs hanging from the ceiling as they passed through the corridor. There was even a heavy, sterile smell that lingered on everything. It made the air feel thick and synthetic. If a stranger had walked into this building, they would have thought it was a hospital or an asylum. Han and Amanda knew better. Amanda came to a room marked 0004, unlocked it, and let herself in. Han had to take a moment to reacquaint himself with everything he'd known about room 0004. Though the last occupant had been ill-tempered and paranoid, and a formidable rival to Han, he had been tidy to some extent. Tidy had clearly died with him. It wasn't so much unclean as it was disorganized. There were files, folders, and loose pages scattered everywhere, sticking out from the shelves, strewn across the floor, and littered on the desk. Han was just glad that there wasn't underwear or food wrappings, or just food for that matter, lying around. "I don't suppose you entertain much," he commented. Amanda didn't respond. "I thought you said you've been good," Han asked, taking up the stack of sheets lying on a chair, moving them onto a desk and sitting down. Amanda sat down on her unmade bed and said, "What can I say? Novelty. For a second, I cared about what you might think if I told you that I was a pathetic lunatic with a never-ending list of problems. Then tell me how you've really been." Amanda shook her head and muttered under her breath. "Where to start?" "The beginning," Han suggested. "Ha ha." Amanda looked away. "If only I knew where that was." Han gestured around and asked, "What's all this?" "Recon. False alarms," Amanda mumbled. "Of what?" A frustrated sigh rumbled within Han. "Valfreya," Amanda said. Hans coughed. "A what?" "Don't look at me like that," Amanda warned, her eyes darkening. "I know you're skeptical, but I'm not fucking with you. Valfreya, incidents, sightings, happenings. You're chasing a ghost?" Amanda sighed. "I'm not mocking you, I'm asking," Han said. Amanda shook her head and tapped her knee. This was a mistake. No, you sit down and tell me." "We are not friends, Han." "All the better that you don't give a fuck about what I think." Amanda stood up. "I know that you're more concerned with Nile Corp, and you don't take Beta Team's missions seriously, but this isn't a joke. Valfreya is real, and I think deep down you know that. You were there when she attempted to get to me." "I was there to recover you from the infirmary. I was not present when you were having the alleged seizure." Amanda hesitated. "She's getting stronger, Han." "How do you know?" Amanda bit her lip, put her hands in her pockets to show how uncomfortable she was. I know." Han tried not to roll his eyes. Even so, Amanda saw the doubt on his face. "I'm connected to her in some way. Since the first encounter. I can hear her. She comes in my dreams." Han looked away. "I get it, okay? I understand your skepticism, Han. I wouldn't believe me either, but Valfreya isn't some ordinary ghost come to haunt the living for their misdeeds. No, Valfreya wants her world back. She wants her slaves back, and you know I'm not the first to say so." "So what? You've been hunting her?" "For some time I was." Amanda sat back and looked at her feet. "Now I'm just avoiding her, staying as far away as I possibly can." "Why?" Amanda paused. "Damn it, Cross." Amanda raised a hand, pointing a shaky finger at Han. "Don't, okay? Don't fucking patronize me, Han. Don't you think I feel good? Do you think I feel good about being the crazy goat lady of the mountain? Do you think I feel good about any of this? You think it's easy?" She shut her eyes. "I'm a joke, Han. Susie won't even listen. She's treated me like I'm insane. She's nice, sure, but not in a good way. I'm a joke because I'm taking this seriously and nobody else is. Do you know the kind of threat Valfreya is?" Amanda sighed and held her head. "I've said my piece. What do you want?" But nothing. Tell me why you're here," Amanda barked. Han put his hands together and explained, "I was looking for a partner. Mission in England. There's signs of Nile Corp work at hand there. They're looking for something. I need to find out what and why, and then get rid of them. Why didn't you ask any of the members of Alpha Team? They'd be of no actual use to me. They have trained and bulk is on their side, but you have skill and experience. You know and understand Nile Corp. I need you to help me find them. You know how I feel about involving myself in that kind of work. I will try to attend to any violence by myself, though you'd still need to be armed, as a precaution. This activity, where's it coming from exactly? All over England, but most notably in a place known as Bradley in northeast Lincolnshire. Amanda looked uneasy and said, I can't go with you. What? Why not? Find someone else. Amanda. Schmidt, I don't have to explain myself to you. No means no, Amanda said. And why would you even want me? I abhor you. You only abhor me because you feel you need to, Hans said. It makes it easier for you. Tell me honestly, why don't you want to go? More ghosts? Amanda gave Han a dark look, unappreciative of his sarcasm. Just leave. Amanda, Xavi won't sanction this mission if you're not involved. And that's my problem because I will make you come with me. Amanda folded her arms and huffed. You can try. Han rose from his seat, stepping over the stack of loose sheets scattered all over the floor. He stood by the door of the room, gave a last look at Amanda. She was looking away. Before he left, feeling the slightest twinge of guilt. Sorry, I apologize. It's been a long time since I've read this story in particular. But that was the first chapter. What do you guys think? And if you have questions, I'll be attending to the live chat now. I don't want to sign in ever. I am quarantined and sick with the virus. Trying to find interesting podcasts. Thanks for this. I'm so sorry to hear that you're quarantined with the virus. I hope you're okay, and I hope that you will get better soon. It's not fun. I called the GP yesterday because I was having quite severe migraines, and I had like a bump like near my eyebrow, so I was worried about that. It looked almost like ringworm. I was very scared, but the GP had a look at it. I FaceTimed with my GP, which is just bizarre all in all. But he said it's nothing to worry about, and if it swells up even more, which is completely gone now, then I should keep in touch and call them again. But he did say that migraines may be symptomatic of the virus. So I'm doing my best to stay away from people. Ahmed09 says, Faye, are you interested in spirituality? Not particularly. I've never had any kind of interest in it. I've always thought it's fake. I understand why people invest in it. I really, really do. I think it brings a certain level of, just peace to a bunch of people, but I honestly don't think I'm made for peace. I don't do well in peace. I'm made for action and living on the edge. But continuing, Nerdy Rodent says anything above 20% alcohol, by the way. I don't know. It's spirits. I've got amaretto. It's cheap amaretto from Tesco because I couldn't find any rum, which is my favorite kind of drink. I think I prefer non-sinister types too. I think everyone does. Tom Edwards, welcome to the chat, says some cleavage whilst reading would be good. Love you, Faye. You want to see cleavage, you can go visit my Instagram. I'm not doing that here. But anyways. Ahmed09 says, realizing the greater self that is not identified in the body or mind. I don't really know what that is. I'm very into self-actualizing, if that's what you mean. So I'm very into that, and I'll always be into that, but I wouldn't call it spirituality. I would call it self-discovery, finding yourself, all of that stuff. I think it's very interesting. I think it's very important and it's very interesting, but I've never really been into spirituality. But I'm always interested to delve in and understand how other people feel about it. So, yeah. Nerdy Rodent says, the story reminds me of something from the SCP Foundation. Well, to be honest, it was inspired by a number of things. Like I said, this was an offshoot of a fan fiction that I wrote. And then this was like an original story that was inspired by my fan fiction. It's ridiculous. But SCP definitely had an influence. I was watching a lot of Outlast gameplay at this time, I think, as well, so that was an influence. I was also testing like a new genre, like a true crime genre. So I wanted to see if I could write very well. But I think my problem with anything realistic is that I like veering off into fantasy, and that can be problematic sometimes when I need to be accurate in other areas. But SCP was definitely and like a source of inspiration for this story. Critical Cripple says you included the phrase greater self and spiritual enlightenment, both things that again invite nonsense. So I'm not getting into this argument. Mike the Random Guy says, for me, spirituality sounds like something residue or past religiosity, like someone is missing something. Sometimes it's also a need for self-importance. Again, like, I'm not against spirituality. I think anybody and everybody is entitled to hold, whatever delusions they want to hold. I hold my own personal delusions. I think it's natural for human beings to have delusions. But for me, spirituality was just never one of those things, especially now, that appealed to me. It's just not something that appeals to me right now. And I'm more into just growing and developing as a human being, and discovering what I'm capable of. And that's, if you want to call that spirituality, I guess I'm spiritual, but I wouldn't call it that. It's just my journey of self-actualization and self-discovery, and that's it. Welcome, 72-day star. Hope you enjoy the rest of the live stream. I don't know how long it's been. It's been 31 minutes, so we may read 2 more chapters. But we've just finished with the first chapter. We are doing a live dramatic reading. Please do remember to like, to share, invite your friends, get comfortable. I am drinking alcohol very early in the morning because it's a Saturday and I'm secluded, and reading a story for people online and just hanging out. So if you want to join in and you want to invite other people to join in, please do so. Also, if you want to follow me on my social medias, everything is linked in the description down below. I have a Patreon, I have a PayPal, Super Chats are open, so feel free to throw me those monies as well if you want to. But we're going to move on to chapter 2. These chapters are really long, by the way. If these are too long, just let me know and we can do a different story next time. But this is one of the stories I was very, very proud of. So chapter 2. Amanda sat at her desk, chin resting on her arms, pupils following the stream that trailed out of her coffee mug. She huffed, shutting her eyes and listening. Any person would have heard nothing but the sound of faint traffic outside the compound, but Amanda was no ordinary person. 1,000 voices bustled in her mind, speaking brilliance, idiocy, evil, virtue, gossip, and slander. The voices mingled and mixed, a confusion of harsh tones and soft murmurs. Amanda never knew what they were exactly, but Dr. Susie Wang was quite adamant that the voices were merely a figment of Amanda's imagination, nothing more than a symptom of some form of dormant insanity. Not that Susie ever said it in that way. No, Dr. Wang liked to be polite and professional. Dr. Dimitri Talbot had a very different opinion. Old and bitter though he might be, Talbot theorized that the voices were a result of a rare phenomenon. The voices were the fragmented recollections of Amanda's ancestors, of the dead, in general. The causes for such a condition were unknown, though Talbot mentioned in passing that it could be because of Amanda's prior misuse and overuse of recreational drugs. There were others that had been brought to the compound for treatment and study. Many of these patients were incapable of containing and understanding these voices and were thus driven insane. Amanda was one of the few that could contain and understand. It was easy for her to zone out and listen. It gave her guidance, skill, strength, and sometimes even foresight. She had been respected, but things had become complicated with the appearance of Valfreya. It seemed that everyone but Talbot believed she'd finally cracked, and Amanda had an inkling that it was mainly due to his success with her that he was loath to agree with the others. Amanda clenched her teeth at the way Han had spoken to her. He already knew that Amanda had had an encounter with Valfreya, but he was still insistent on the belief that it was little more than a seizure. Slack-jawed bastard, she muttered to herself. Who needs him anyway? She sniffed, dug out her cell phone from her pocket and browsed through her recent messages. Her eyes brightened when she saw the name Elena Schmidt. She was less impressed at the time Elena's message was sent, 3:46 a.m. Amanda's friendship with Elena was a strange one. It started out as merely a tutor-student relationship. Amanda would go to the Schmidt house once a week to help Elena with her English and math homework, but the relationship grew when Elena seemed to feel that she could open up to Amanda about everything from her school life to her relationship with her father. In her head, Amanda liked to describe it as an aunt-niece relationship, but she knew it was more than that. They were friends. Amanda stared at the message for a while, chewed the inside of her cheek, and then made a decision. She tapped Elena's name on the screen and gave her a call. The tone rang for a while before someone on the other end picked up. "Hello," said the voice. Amanda straightened in her seat and smiled. "Hey, Elena. Everything okay? I got your late-night message." Elena paused. "I'd say it was an early morning message." Amanda scoffed. "What's the matter?" Elena sighed. "How come you told Dad that we've been talking?" Amanda got up and sat on her bed. "I said it in passing. Why? Are you not allowed to be talking to me?" "Do you really want to hear it?" "Nah," Amanda said. "I don't need you telling me how much of a little bitch your father is." Elena scoffed on the other end. "But," Amanda continued, "still shouldn't be a reason for you to be up so late or early." Elena mumbled, "I don't want to talk about it." "Well, all right. How's your stepmom?" Elena sighed. "She's fine." Uh-oh. Damn it. Fine is never a good thing. You should know that You should know that much by now, Elle. Amanda laughed. "You'd be surprised just how much like your dad you sound." "Please don't." "Get some sleep, Elena. Whatever it is, I'm sure it'll wear down in a few days. Unless it's bigger than I anticipate, in which case it will scar you forever." Elena laughed. "Thanks, Amanda. I feel great now." "You know what I mean." "Yeah. Say, what are you doing up so late?" "What are you doing up so late?" "I was just listening to your dad being a little bitch." "What, all this time?" "No, he's been gone for about 2 hours. Just don't feel like sleeping. Probably be able to get a nap sometime in the day with the way work is going." "Oh, I thought you were going out today." "I was? Well, I was going to ask you if we could..." "Is it something important?" "Dress shopping." "Can't you go with your stepmom?" "Gemma is so boring, though. With you and Lisa, we'd be shopping for about 6 hours, having actual fun. Gemma would just barrel in and barrel out with any old tacky thing. She'd take half an hour, tops." "Sounds awful, but I don't think I'll be able to make today, Elena, sorry. With work being slow and your dad making threats, I'd probably be cooped up in Briar's office for a while. Can't you go with friends?" "We're not in the best mood about each other at the moment." "What do you mean?" Elena hesitated before she said, "Katie attempted to steal Brad, and Brad, the nugget, thought he could get away with going out with her without me knowing it. In the end, Katie started spreading all these rumors and basically bitching behind my back, and everyone just went ahead and believed her." Amanda paused. "When did this happen?" "About a week ago," Elena mumbled. "Did you tell anyone else?" "No." "I'm sorry to hear that, Elle. That sounds rough." "You should have told me earlier. Might have had to electrocute that stupid girl." Elena snorted. "Are you allowed to do that?" "Who cares? That chihuahua stole your nugget boyfriend." Elena laughed. "I haven't been feeling great. I know. Middle school can be tough. It's like a gladiatorial sport." "I know you've said that twice before. I actually have that pinned to my inspiration board, right next to Gemma's top tip. The fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach." "You didn't let me finish. Fine, go on." "Gladiators were slaves. Even so, some of them stood up to emperors," Amanda finished. "Take that, Gemma." Amanda giggled. "I'll let you know when I'm free, Elena, and then we'll have a proper day out, okay? No nuggets, no dads, no chihuahuas, no Gemma, guaranteed." "What was my dad threatening you about?" "Don't bother about it. Your old man is obsessed with me. One of these days he's going to drive me up a tree." Amanda spat, smiling to herself. "Still, what?" "You should have told him about all that stuff you just told me, about your ex-friends." "You think he'd care?" "Look, I know I go on and on and on about how much I hate him, and I have no doubts in my mind about this. He's your dad. Of course he'd care." "I don't know." "Well, duh, you've never given him the chance." "I know it's tough because he's so silent, sinister, aloof, judgmental, intimidating, arrogant, getting to the point." "Right, well, I'm getting at is everything he does for you. I think you might even He might have even married Gemma because you were growing up, and let's face it, he doesn't know the first thing about adolescent girls and what they need. You should have seen his face when he saw Lisa today. He had this look, like she was a terminally diseased Martian or something, and she's pretty much an adult. It's hard to talk to him. Then maybe try building a relationship. I don't know if you've discovered it, but your dad has a positive side. It's highly disproportionate to the rest of him, but it's there. I've had first-hand experience of it. Amanda smiled. Get to know your dad. He wants to get to know you too, and he has the same problem as you. Just ask him what his day was like, crack a joke, who his most hated person in the world is. I'll give you a hint for the last one. You're talking to her, but take baby steps, okay? Don't charge in with your hormones at the ready. I got it, Amanda. Good. Now get some sleep. You should not be up at this time, Amanda chuckled. And don't forget to call every now and then. I might not be able to see you every week, but I'll be happy with hearing your voice every day. Okay, I will. You get some sleep too. I hope Dad doesn't give you too much of a hard time. If he does, expect him to have a swollen, crooked nose when he gets home. Oh no, please don't hit my dad. Only for you, Elle, Amanda scoffed. Sweet dreams then. Yeah, you too. Amanda switched off the phone and lay back on her pillow, not bothering to take off her white shirt. She kicked off her shoes and took her jeans off and let them drop onto the floor. She put her phone to her chest and stared at the ceiling. I should call Talbot, she murmured to herself. From the way Han has said it, I will be in Briar's office while they call me a nutcase and I stand there like a wooden post, chipping away at their condescension. Should probably start packing for good old England as well. She paused. And what, let him win? That arsehole doesn't know anything about anything. All he knows is how to point and shoot. He doesn't know what kind of danger there is in store, what's at stake, the kind of monster Valfreya is. And what am I going to do about Lisa? No way I can just leave her here, stuck with no one. I put her in this mess. I should be responsible for her. Amanda sighed and put her hand through her hair. She muttered, who am I kidding? Dan was right. She put her phone under her pillow and curled up on the bed, in the vain hope she might sleep. Lunatics don't win, said a soft whisper in her head. And that was chapter 2. What did you guys think? I'll be looking at comments and things now. I don't know how much of this just feels very tedious. Like I said, I'm very nervous about reading my written work because it is my pride and joy. It's something that I genuinely feel like I'm good at. But I don't know how much of that is tedious. It definitely feels tedious to read aloud, but you guys will have to let me know. 72 Day Star says, is there such a thing as secular spirituality? I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is such a thing as that. I know a few people who are atheists or, non-religious, but do spiritual activities. But yeah, I don't know. It's not something I know too much about, but I do have friends who meditate and are into connecting with their chi and trying to open their third eye and stuff like that. Very hippy dippy, stuff like that. But yeah. Critical Cripple says, for fuck's sake, family turned up, gotta run. No problem, Critical Dave. We'll talk later, and thank you for joining the stream thus far. It's always a pleasure to have you. 72 Day Star says, middle school was tough. It really was. We don't really call it middle school here, we call it secondary school, but because this is set in America, it's called it middle school. But Amanda, not to spoil anything, but she's meant to be British. She's a British character. 72 Day Star says, it has a good flow. I'm glad. Nerdy Rodent says, I'm just chillaxed and listening. Cool. I'm good to just keep you guys company because it's a difficult time. 72 Day Star says, when I watch a sunset and totally relax, that feels spiritual. Yeah, I understand that. I think that there are very few moments in my life, or very few things that I do, that cause me to fully just think absolute nothing. It's very hard for me to sit in a space and completely empty my brain, because my brain is always firing, be that different ideas, different thoughts, worries about myself, worries about different people, memories. Like it's always just firing one after the other. So sometimes it can be a little difficult to sit down and relax. And a lot of people have said maybe you should start meditating because it could help you be able to clear your mind a little easier and be able to relax you more and things like that. But I really, really don't know if that is something that would help. But I do remember the last time that I watched a sunset, must have been in 2016, where I actually purposefully like climbed a hill. I think it was in Wimbledon or something. Was it in Wimbledon? I can't remember. It was near the Cutty Sark. I climbed up a hill and we sat and we watched the sunset, and it was lovely. And then it was so dark, there were no lampposts out. I had to get like my emergency torch out and find my way back to the station. But it was lovely, and maybe I should do more of that stuff. Maybe I'll attempt meditation today and see how it goes. But yeah. Nerdy Rodent says, my mind is the opposite. It takes effort to start those thoughts. Well, I don't know what's worse, if I'm being completely honest. 72 Day Star says, when I became an atheist, I disowned all that realm. I think that was a mistake. I think it's cool to feel the wonder of a sunset or Milky Way in a very dark sky. I still really, well, I need a buddy. I think I have a buddy that I have, that I can do this with. I still want to just like lie back in a park one weekend and just look up at the sky and like try to make pictures out of clouds. You know how they do like in movies? Like I still really want to do that. I want to lie in the grass and look at stars. Unfortunately in London, because of the pollution, we don't really see a lot of stars here. But like if I was out somewhere else in a different city around the UK, I still really, really, really want to do that. Maybe get some, some smokes, get really high. Sounds like a fun plan. But yeah, I would love to get out of London. London is my home. It's the greatest city in the world. I will never really, really want to leave London, if I'm being completely honest. But I do have a dream of living in Edinburgh, possibly buying a house there in future, so that I can say that I'm Scottish and I come from Scotland, because I have a weird, weird love for Scotland. But the countryside is too boring for me. I have my closest friend, who is Simon, who was in my video yesterday. He lives in Cambridge. He lives in the middle of nowhere. He's so hard to reach sometimes because he literally lives in just open land. I would hate to live like that. I don't enjoy the silence. I don't enjoy like the lack of people, the lack of convenience. I really, really enjoy busy London where it's loud. And also it's Rona season, it's a virus season. I can't go anywhere. But yeah, I think after this is over and we can go outside again and I can lie in the grass in a park, I'm going to meet up with some friends. We're going to picture some clouds and we're going to look up some stars. I think that would be amazing. What is the Leonidas? Please let me know. I'm going to move on to chapter 3 and then we'll have final discussion and we will answer some questions and close out. So yeah, as always, this is a dramatic reading for anyone who's just joined. I don't think the viewership has gone down, so I don't know what that means, but if you are enjoying this, please do remember to like. If you want to, please do consider sharing. All of my social media stuff is in the description below. I have a Patreon, I have a PayPal, I have merch. Also, super chats are open, so if you feel like throwing your money at me, please do feel free to. I'm going to move on to reading chapter 3, and yeah, get comfortable, grab your blanket, grab your wine, bottoms up. But yeah, chapter 3. The cafeteria clamoured with the sounds of chatter and cutlery. The alliteration. In a lonely corner at a round table, Hans sat with a mug of coffee and 2 slices of lightly buttered toast placed on a circular ceramic dish. He held a sheaf of papers in his hand, reading them as he munched on his breakfast. He put down his mug of coffee and traced over a sentence on the page with his finger, showing vague signs of interest while holding none at all. "It's Han, right?" Someone spoke to him, interrupting his reading. "I'm Lisa. You know Amanda's friend?" Han considered ignoring her for a moment, but put down his work and gestured for her to sit with her tray. She wore a figure-hugging bright yellow sweater vest with a deep V-neck, her cleavage poking out of the collar. He wrinkled his nose at her choice of clothing. "Good morning," Han said. Lisa picked up a green apple from her tray and bit into it, chewing slowly to allow herself time to think. "So, what's the deal with you and Amanda anyway?" she asked him. Han tried not to sigh. "We were partners a few years ago." "Oh, like, no," Han said, killing whatever excitement Lisa could have thrown up. "No, not like that. Unfortunately, she became the interest of a different team that dealt with different things, so our partnership was severed early. It was a pity. She showed some areas, but weakness in others." Han grunted. "She surrenders to soft spots, urges, and puts her faith in the unlikely. It's no wonder she's become an unsavory character." Lisa was grinning at him, like she couldn't take him seriously. "She told me you're an arrogant, close-minded fuck that couldn't stand to listen to a different opinion." Hans snorted and gestured around him. "And I suppose the rest of Amanda's peers are also arrogant, close-minded fucks." Lisa looked at her hands, checking her carefully painted fingernails. "Are you saying we live in an open-minded world?" Han blinked. "Amanda likes to keep me away. It's cute, but I'm not as stupid as I like to act." Lisa ate more of her apple. "Just thought I should let you know. She hasn't slept a wink because of your little argument with her last night. She has it in for you, Han." "Excuse me?" Han raised an eyebrow. "How would you know about any of that? She looks out for me. So I try to do what I can for her. I know what she's like when she's in the mood you've put her in." Lisa stood up to leave. "Don't hurt my friend, Han. I don't like it when she's worked up and upset. She only becomes an unsavory character when she meets people like you, and I try, I really do, to keep a smile on her face. This will come and bite you in the ass." Han paused. "She didn't sleep all night?" Disappointed creases folded Lisa's porcelain forehead. "Weren't you listening?" she asked him. "Not a wink. I could hear her fussing over her papers, talking to Dr. Talbot, all sorts, from my room. When I went to see her and she just told me to go back to bed." Han saw Lisa clench her fists, an angry frown deepening the corners of her lips. "You might think you hold the upper hand, that you can say what you like to her and get away with it, and maybe you will. Just don't hurt Amanda, please. The last year hasn't been easy for her." Lisa didn't wait to hear a response. She spun around and walked straight out of the cafeteria. Han stared after her for a long time, frozen in his place even after she had left, eyes fixed on the exit. He huffed and looked at the time, though immediately forgetting the numbers the hands of his watch indicated. Han pushed away his breakfast and got up to leave, hands in his pockets, his mind empty and removed of all thought, watching his feet as he walked. By some chance or innate disposition, he found that his feet had led him to Briar's office. Amanda was seated on a plastic chair by the door, a thin binder on her lap, that distant look glazing over her tired, sore eyes. Han watched her, as he had in the recreational facility the night before, only with more pity. He took the seat next to her and bent over to place his elbows on his thighs. "Amanda," he said. She raised her head a little, as if having woken from a dream. Amanda turned her head away from Han. "Listen, Han felt helpless as his apology sounded with an echoing hollowness. "Sorry." Amanda whispered, her voice tired and bitter. "You don't know the meaning of that word." "There just isn't anyone else that would suit this mission," Han tried to explain. "You're wrong. You don't know what you're dragging me into," Amanda replied. "But then, you're Briar's pet. She'll let you have your way. Even so, whether you want to or you don't, you'll hear my plea. Even if it will serve no cause and change nothing." "Amanda, don't," Amanda said, raising a hand. "If you're really sorry, stop talking and leave me in the comfort of my mind." Han nodded and looked away. "Did you speak with the leader this morning?" Amanda asked. A small electric pulse raced up Han's spine on hearing his daughter's name. He sat straighter. Yes, I spoke a little with her before she left for school. She asked me if I could take her dress shopping," Amanda said. "And do you really believe that's appropriate?" Amanda snapped. "That's why I'm asking you." She gave him a hard look, furious and sad at the same time. Han paused. "What about her friends, or Gemma? You really think she would have asked me if she hadn't already considered the other options? That's not what I meant. Well, Amanda pressed. Han couldn't look at her. I trust you, was all he said. He would have said more, were he not at a loss for words, sentiments perhaps, even for a sound. Amanda waited for the words, sentiments, sounds. When they didn't come, she shut her eyes and lay back her head on the backrest of her chair, leaving reality to the chaos of her mind. Han looked at his hands, taking a side glance at Amanda every now and then. He hadn't been present around the time that his daughter and his ex-partner had forged such a strong alliance, and it made him feel strange every time the subject was brought up. He didn't have fears that Amanda would lure Alina away from him, but he did have fears for what such a relationship might mean for Alina. Even if Han was more than comfortable with his work, he would never intend such a fate for his daughter, and if by some chance she came to know about his work through Amanda, Alina would be bound, no damned to it like Lisa. It was a one-way street. And then he looked at Amanda, a true victim of circumstance. She never meant to be here, doing what she does, and that which she had been subjected to do had made her such a character, disturbed, upset, and bitter except in the company of a few. Han was unique in the sense that he both was and was not among those few. He sighed and picked up a stray newspaper lying ruffled on the empty seat next to him, and idly looked through it as he waited for Briar's secretary to open the door to let them in. He read the words, but the stories the newspapers told were lost on him. He couldn't think straight. He cursed under his breath and tossed the paper away. As he did, the office door swung open and a high-heeled woman in a pencil skirt and a tight bun stepped out. Miss Briar is ready to see you now, she said in a nasal voice. Han nudged Amanda. She woke and got up with him. They stepped into the overly decorated office and took no notice of the marble stonework, the tall white statues that stared down at them with the pupil-less eyes or the expensive red drapes that curtained such figures in a complimentary, tasteful fashion. Han remembered the first time he'd come to this place. He'd met Andrea Briar for the first time in person and fell into the steel grip of his ex-rival, Dan Fisher. He shuddered at the thought and rubbed his arm. Briar sat behind her desk, the epitome of precision in terms of dress, with her pulled-back brown hair, symmetrically made-up face, and her pristine dark pantsuit. She looked every part the shrewd, middle-aged woman who dealt with paperwork for an important organization, and standing by her was the head of operations, Manuel Xavi, a mountain of meat without the appearance of emotion or sensitivity. He looked like an oaf that went barreling into everything he could, but he was much smarter than he looked. It gave him a very powerful advantage over everyone he knew, and even more so over those he didn't. Amanda took a seat without saying a word, and Han followed her lead. Amanda H. Crossed and Agent Hansel Schmidt. It's not been a day since you two were reacquainted, and here we are, Briar said. She had a clinical, sterile voice, almost like she was always speaking through a bad microphone. Just like old times, cats and dogs as always. I'm surprised the two of you don't have your own web series. Don't attempt humour, Amanda said, irritable and tense. You're not very good at it. Oh, Bob's already, Briar laughed. Says the woman who calls herself Briar, Amanda commented. There's nothing more annoying than stray thorns, especially when it has no flower to guard. Briar grimaced. Enough, Xavi said. You were not called to share tips on stand-up comedy or philosophical botany. I'm sure Agent Schmidt has discussed the matter at hand. Mission to England, yes, Amanda said. We've discussed it to some extent. And you refused the offer, Agent Cross. I'm not an Alpha Team operative. I made that clear 2 years ago. Understandable. However, there is no one within Alpha Team that shares your qualities. Amanda scoffed elaborately, as if this was a shared joke that never got old. Oh, she said, so now they're qualities. I will just continue as a lunatic after the mission is over, then. Agent Cross, I ask you to treat this meeting with maturity. I can't, Mr. X. I can't take any of you seriously, not after everything that thorn in my side has put me through. Amanda pointed at Briar and gestured to Han. And not by how much disregard and laughter that your lapdog and his admirers treat me. Agent Cross, Mr. X, this kind of insolence is not tolerated. Well, you either tolerate my insolence or I leave and you reach no conclusions. Amanda crossed her arms. I have no qualms against you, Xavi. I prefer that you didn't present any to me. Amanda, Han tried to intervene. I have nothing to say to you, Han. Amanda hissed. Agent Cross, Xavi said, leaning against the desk and folding his arms. Listen, please. The item that Nile Corp agents are searching for is as yet unknown to us in terms of its power and use. However, we know that the item can be weaponized, which could prove disastrous if Nile Corp is able to utilize it in such a way. And where do I fit into this? Amanda asked. Xavi clenched his jaw. You've encountered this item, whether you know it or not, through those fragmented ghosts in your head. You could get to it before Nile Corp could hope to. Amanda sighed. Damn it, Xavi, I'm not your golden fucking retriever. I cannot go into Bradleywood. Why not? Xavi asked. Prepare for ghost stories, Briar said, her Cheshire cat grin beaming menacingly at Amanda. Amanda glared at her, then asked Xavi, Where is Talbot? He said he would be present for this meeting. Occupied, most likely, Briar replied. He is a medical doctor, after all. Yeah, but I'm his priority subject. He puts my needs before the needs of anybody else. That's his job, Amanda spat. Come now, why would you need him? Briar laughed. Just tell us your cute little story, so we can close the book on this arbitrary meeting. My words aren't worth a dime to you, Amanda barked, so I'm not saying anything you want to know until Talbot is here. Agent Cross, we do have pressing matters to attend, and cannot wait for you to speak when it suits you, Briar said. Then find someone else to dig up your weaponized doohickey. Agent Cross, I would like to remind you that you are an expendable pawn. Briar stood up. If you prove useless to us, we will dispose of you. I've been useless to you for the last year or so, since everyone started calling me a wackadoodle nutjob. How long does this expendable disposal service take, Briar? Amanda asked. You can't get rid of me, because whether you alpha fuckers like it or not, you know you need me. Do not tempt me, Agent Cross, Briar warned. Why the fuck not? It isn't going to affect me in any way. Hans stood up. I think perhaps we've gotten a little. Briar's voice rose as she said, You know the consequences for insubordination, Agent Cross. Yeah, I do, Amanda said with an angry nonchalance. Shoot, see how much good it does you. For a moment, Briar looked like she just might do that, but Xavi gave her a look, this deep, disappointed gaze that made her scowl and sit down. Agent Cross, please take your seat, Xavi said, the reserved calm unmoving from his tone of voice. We will wait for Dr. Talbot. Thank you, Amanda said, putting one leg over the other and taking her phone out. Briar attempted one last attempt at a threat. You will be hearing from me, Agent Cross. Great. Maybe your formal complaint will amount to more than just 3 days in solitary this time, Amanda mumbled, scrolling through the messages on her phone. And that was chapter 3. My phone is running out of power, so I would it freezes up every time it gives me a notification. But what did you guys think of that chapter? Let me just check. Okay, it's on 19%. I might get a charger if you guys want me to read the next chapter, because we're only an hour in and I could potentially read another chapter. But what did you guys think? Yeah, just let me know. I will be joining in on the chat. I think I'm going to quickly throw on the charger just so my phone doesn't completely die. And I'll be back to see what you guys have for me. What are you thinking of the story so far? Are you interested to hear more? Are you guys bored? What's going on? So yeah, give me a sec. I make this joke too much, but there's always quality on the Faye the Most Gracious channel. It's the quality you pay for. I don't know why you guys put up with me. This nonsense every week. Every single week. We're charging? Okay, we're charging, so we should be good. if I don't trip over everything. Alright, we're back. So I asked what Air Leonidas is, so it's a meteor storm or a meteor shower. I've never actually seen a meteor shower. Sorry, put my microphone back on. Quality content over here, guys. Galaxy brain over here, guys. I've never seen a meteor shower in person. I've never seen a lot of things in person, but I would love to. So yeah, I'll have to research when the next one is and maybe catch it when it happens here in London. Nerdy Rodent says, lol, hashtag arrogant close-minded fucks. Yeah, they're the worst. Paul has joined us. Welcome, Paul. Mike the Random Guy says, is the video frozen up for you? Or is that just me? It's just that when my phone gives me a notification that the battery's running low, it freezes the video for some reason. But yeah, it shouldn't happen for the rest of the stream. It happened last time, so I should probably make sure that the charge is just in when I start doing a live stream. 72 Day Star says, good flow, its strength is the smoothness of the verse. Thank you. Rory the Swagger Husky has joined us. Welcome. Faye, how are you? I'm doing good. It's a Saturday morning. I'm, looking fresh, looking fun. So yeah, I'm good. Mike the Random Guy says, I'm hooked. Can you send me the rest of it? Well, I'm gonna try and read this for the next few live streams, I think, when I do a reading live stream. Tomorrow, we're not gonna have a reading live stream tomorrow. I'm bringing on a guest so that we can talk about shunning and talk about isolation and then maybe some fun stuff, because I'm all about the fun stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm doing tomorrow. But next week, if we do another dramatic reading, it's going to be the following chapters. I think I am going to end up reading chapter 4 today, but if you want to check in and listen to it, it's going to be up on my channel regardless. So you're more than welcome to come back and see the rest of it. 72 Day Star says, you poor girl, the pear seeds are on average the best and easiest to see. Awesome. I'll have a look. 72 Day Star, it was for the moment, just refresh. Rory the Swagger Husky says, there is no abrogation of historical event. I don't know what that means, but sure. If there are any final questions, let me know. We can have a little discussion before I continue. For those of you who have just joined us, we are doing a live dramatic reading of a story called Fork Road that I wrote in about 3 years ago, and that I updated as late as 2018. So that's what we're doing. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying reading this. It feels a little cringe because I remember the place that I was in when I started writing this. And I'm very excited for you guys to uncover this world of mystery that I'm putting you through. And hopefully I won't reveal any spoilers because I'm very bad at that. But anyway, we're going to move on to chapter 4. As usual, remember to like, remember to subscribe, feel free to share if you want to. All of my social media links are in the description below. Have a PayPal, have a Patreon, super chats are open, so if you feel like giving me your money, throw them my way. But we're going to continue with chapter 4. Amanda was stuck scrolling through her messages and smiling at the odd internet meme until Talbot showed up, and she was aware that this might take a while. So she had made herself comfortable and was determined to not share any information of actual value until the cavalry arrived. Though she didn't like to admit it, Talbot kind of scared her, and she preferred not to incur his wrath by disobeying his wishes. Lisa was pinging her constantly as to when she would leave the office so they could go out for drinks. Amanda always had to smile at the young woman's zeal in making Amanda have fun. Amanda appreciated it until she did. She really did, but somehow she felt fun no longer suited her. It sounded stupid when she thought of it like that, but Amanda shouldn't escape feeling strange and out of place when Lisa dragged her in and out of a bar, nightclub, or even a strip club. Still, at least, it helped to lift Amanda's mood from time to time to get her away from people like Briar, and despite his ill temper, Talbot encouraged Amanda to have fun every once in a while as well. Her train of thought was broken abruptly by Han's voice. Are you literally going to sit there for however long and waste everyone's time just so your doctor can come? If you don't think it's worth it, you're free to call this meeting and my involvement in your mission off, Amanda replied with a light shrug. If it is worth it, you'll wait for Dracula, Van Helsing, and the Antichrist, should I see fit. I don't like this side of you, Han grumbled. Believe it. Amanda nodded. I didn't know I had this side until this morning. She knows she can't get anywhere without Dr. Talbot's seal of approval, Briar spat. Amanda made a face and scoffed. Yes, I already said that. She sat up a little straighter and returned her attention to her phone. And instead of sitting there trying to blow me up with your telekinetic fantasies, why not use the laptop in front of you and get some work done? Amanda didn't see the phenomenon, but Xavi smiled at her remark. She has a point, she heard him say. Of the four of us, you can still manage your time rather than waste it. Amanda grinned a little and texted Lisa, saying that she might be in Briar's office for a few hours, depending on when the doctor arrived. As if Talbot feared for Lisa's disappointment, he stormed into the office and snapped at Amanda. I thought I told you not to say anything until I got here. While everyone else had a minor heart attack, blinked, and then stared at Talbot, Amanda sucked in her cheeks, stowed her phone into her pocket, and said, I didn't say anything, unless you count a lot of fucking around, in which case... Amanda shrugged. Sorry? Mind your language, please, said the grey, wispy-haired man. It's about time you arrived, Doctor, Xavi grunted. Talbot humphed, stomping forward and looking at Xavi to Briar. From Xavi to Briar. I would have arrived earlier, he said, his giant hazel eyes glaring at them like that of an agitated owl's. Unfortunately, I was upheld by a ludicrous mob of running noses and itching eyes. I demand to know which of you is responsible for this. Briar furrowed her brows. Excuse me? Amanda stood up and intervened. We'll TP her jeep later, but we've been waiting a good 45 minutes. Excuse me, Miss Cross. I need to explain why I have to stay out of this mission, Doctor. Amanda looked at Talbot with an intense look, a look that said that he was the final stand, her last hope in the struggle. There was a pause, as if Amanda was allowing him to take in and absorb the look she was fixing on him. We've been waiting a very long time for you to arrive, she murmured. Right, Talbot said, nodding his head directly at her. All the while, Briar was stroking her brows with a forefinger and thumb, as if this was a terribly awful pantomime she didn't want to witness rather than a formal meeting. Well, Dr. Talbot, she said, leaning forward on her elbows and clasping her hands together, present Agent Cross's excuses for her. This should be interesting. No, Talbot said, placing his hands behind his back and raising his chin. Briar waited. That was all he had to say. You won't be defending her? Briar asked. No, Talbot said. Any defense need not be presented. Amanda is unfit for any kind of field work. She simply is unable at this point in time. I, as her medical doctor, have the right and the responsibility to keep any such details confidential. You cannot send her on this mission to England, and if you do not have my permission or clearance to. Han muttered. This is bullshit. Have you anything to say, Han? Briar asked, eager to hear any kind of response that would jeopardize Amanda and her will to stay away from this mission. Han stood up, trying to take no notice of the glare Amanda was boring into him. Last night Amanda told me about a ghost in Bradley Wood, he said without a moment's hesitation. Briar scoffed. Oh, this should be good. As you can see, Miss Briar, Talbot interjected before Han could continue, my patient is deeply disturbed. Even that she's making these claims should be proof enough. Nonsense, Briar said. Sounds more like cowardice than craze. Amanda stepped forward. It's true, she shouted and shut her eyes. She let herself breathe before she opened her eyes and went on. It's true, there is a ghost. She sighed and looked at Xavi. I know none of you think highly of me, least of all you, Xavi, but you have to believe me. There is a ghost, a force, a power, an entity, bigger and more dangerous than any of you know or understand. Xavi looked up at Amanda and observed her face for what seemed like a while. You're not honestly buying this, Manuel? Briar asked him, a light-hearted smile on her face. Are you? Tell me about this ghost, Xavi said, folding his arms. Amanda began. Her name is Valfreya. Your ghost is a Norse god? Xavi asked, but more as a question than a sarcastic remark. Briar chuckled anyway. Amanda was grateful for Xavi, though she tried not to show it too much. That's just it, I don't know. That's just how she's revealed herself to me. I hear her. I feel her, and I know she's there waiting for me in Bradley Wood. And the evidence for this is what? Briar asked, not even wanting to hear an answer. More feelings. Amanda bit her tongue and said, no, murders. She passed Han a folder marked with the word serial killings in Bradley Wood. There's been a string of murders and disappearances in and around that area in Bradley, and all the bodies are always found in Bradley Wood. The strange thing is, there's no blood, no discernible causes of death, just these people just died, as if naturally, varying ages, no preference of gender, different levels of health and fitness. It's been happening on a constant for the past few months. People go missing, then they're found dead in the wood. And how does Valfreya fit into this? Han asked. She's looking for a suitable conduit, Amanda explained. Only those that aren't. She can't be in them any longer, so they die. The locals have begun dubbing her the Black Lady of Bradley Wood. The police have been looking into it, but I've had Dr. Talbot communicate with our contacts in the UK and kept them quiet. You've lost me, Amanda. If you believe this, then why wouldn't you want to go? Han asked. Don't you want to stop her? Amanda looked at Han searchingly. You don't get it. Han furrowed his brows. Han, I'm the suitable conduit, Amanda said. She got in and got out twice, and I'm still standing. If I go there and she gets to me, game over. She'll have a solid form, and things will burn to hell from there. Wait, twice? You weren't here. What happened? They were giving me treatment in the machine. Valfreya got into the system and tried to possess me. Talbot force ejected me. I was in a coma for about a fortnight. They've stopped treatment since. Susie was against it, but Talbot was adamant. He said that it was too high a risk. Han opened his eyes in surprise. You were in a coma for 2 weeks, he said. That's why you wouldn't reply to messages or pick up calls? You told me your phone was broken. Javi stepped in. Agent Cross, he said, bringing both agents back on point. This mission is far too important for us not to send you. Mr. X, Amanda began, regardless of the threat it might pose to your life, Javi added. Oh, Amanda laughed. You think I'm worried about myself? She scoffed and strode up to Xavi. Amanda took a moment to adjust his shirt and fix his tie. You don't understand. This has very little to do with my concern for myself. I'm not saying that it's not there, but I think you're overlooking what might happen if Valfreya has me. Briar stood up. Okay, she said, placing her hands on the table. Thank you for sharing, Amanda, but I do believe we've reached a simple conclusion. You don't want to commit to field work, and I completely understand. She waved a hand at Amanda and looked away. Why go out to get hot and bothered when you could sit around and waste oxygen all day, Amanda snarled. She hated it when that woman called her by her first name. Fuck you, Amanda spat. If you can believe a few old stones can be forged into weapons of mass destruction, then why can't you believe that this is real? We've experienced the supernatural, witnessed the paranormal. Why is this any different? Answer me. You are the agent, Amanda, the object, the minion, Briar said. Even if you might think you're some kind of chosen one, which I find so intensely ridiculous, I don't need to answer to you. Amanda balled her hands into fists, and everyone flinched as her knuckles cracked. Han put a hand on her shoulder. Agent Cross, Xavi spoke at last. Amanda didn't look at him and muttered, I swear to God, Xavi, you send me on this mission. You are going to England with Agent Smith to locate... Then the world can burn, Amanda barked at him, and it can burn you with it. She pointed at Han. And you, she pointed to Talbot. And you, she spun around to face Briar and yanked her forward by the collar. And you, especially you. Briar tore herself away. How dare you, she shrieked, readjusting her clothes. If I have any control whatsoever over this body after Valfreya gets me, Amanda pointed to them all, I'll make sure to make all of you burn. She snatched her file from Han's grasp and ripped the door open. Agent Krantz, I demand that you stay in this office, Javi said, and I demand that you all sod off and let me throw my tantrum in peace, Amanda retorted, throwing up an arm in his direction. This level of disrespect, then kill me now and have done with me, Amanda demanded. I've seen you shoot people 1,000,000 times before. What's one more, eh? If I'm so expendable and intolerable, get rid of me now. I demand it. Javi gave her a burning look, a scowl that told her that he was very, very displeased with her and then said, "You're dismissed." "Thank you kindly," Amanda replied, inclining her head and leaving the room. She made sure to slam the door as she left. And that's chapter 4. The drama has started. I'm gonna take a look at the chat. I don't know, we've had 79 minutes. I don't know if you want me to read one more chapter, but what do you think so far? It says 72 Day Star says, okay, how about cleaning verses? What do you mean by cleaning verses? I'm looking for constructive criticism, so I'm down for whatever. But yeah, I did have a problem with not being able to properly signpost who was speaking at certain times. That was a very significant problem with a lot of the fiction that I used to write, or I wrote previously. So I know that that's a thing that I need to correct a little. But yeah, if there are no further comments, I might as well read another chapter and then close out. But what do you guys think so far? Any comments? Any constructive feedback? Any criticism? I'm down for anything, really. Okay, nothing so far. I'm just gonna have a sip because the old throat is dry. Okay, we'll read one more chapter because there's a demand for it. So we're on chapter 5. Amanda raised a hand at Lisa when she saw her standing by room 0004, staying silent. "Please not now, Andy," and reached into her pockets to fish out her keys. Lisa's warm, friendly grin, which she had prepared specifically for this occasion in her compact mirror for about 10 to 15 minutes, sunk immediately into an angry frown, but she tried not to vent her frustrations on Amanda. "So," Lisa said, trying to sound casual as Amanda got the door open and threw it wide so that it crashed and rattled against the wall, "I take it the meeting didn't go well." Amanda chucked her file into a stack of loose sheets, and the entire pile fell into a heaped mess on the floor. Amanda sat on her bed and held her face in her hands. Lisa didn't usually stick around to hear the muffled sobbing. Amanda wasn't really one to cry in company, but she felt like she had to stay and support her friend. Lisa went up to Amanda, feeling awkward as she'd never done this before, and sat next to her. She placed a hand on Amanda's shoulder. "Leave me the fuck alone," Amanda screamed, pushing herself away and curling up into a ball. Lisa was slack-jawed in awe for a long time before she found her wits to say, "Wow, it really didn't go well." Amanda sniffed and got up, going to her adjoining bathroom, fishing out a roll of toilet paper, tearing off a piece, and blowing her nose. She came back to her bed and set the toilet roll down next to her. "I'm such a messy crier," she sobbed. "God, does everyone snot up this badly?" Lisa smiled. "I think so, yeah," she said. Amanda shook her head and muttered, "I'm sorry." She wiped her nose again. "I didn't mean to flip off at you." "No, I get it," Lisa said, taking a pack of gum and offering a piece to Amanda. "You want to talk about it?" Amanda refused the offer and said, "No, the very last thing I want to do right now is talk about it." She rubbed her forehead and said, "I need a drink. As soon as it gets dark, you'd better drag me through every club and bar in Philly. I'm so pissed." "Why wait for dark?" Lisa asked. "We can go and hit the town now." Amanda laughed. "Fine, all right, Andy." She wiped her eyes with more toilet paper. "Give me a second to sort myself out." "Ooh, why don't we go shopping? Buy some stupid, insane-looking things to go out in later," Lisa suggested. "I mean, you can afford it, so why not? Showing a bit of skin now and then wouldn't hurt." "Sounds like a plan," Amanda croaked. "I want to feel like death in the morning. Might invite Alina for the shopping part. She said she wanted to go anyway." "Awesome," Lisa said, getting up and leaving. Amanda watched her shut the door before she put her head down on her pillow and just breathed, trying not to think of anything. She sniffed and rubbed her eyes. They felt sore already. On a whim, she turned on her side and pulled open the drawer in her bedside cabinet and took a small framed picture. He looked the same as always. Dark blonde hair cut in rough, messy patches, intense, even cold blue eyes, and an otherwise stern face were he not smiling. Amanda looked at him with longing and sadness. She kissed the cold glass that covered the image and held it against her chest, like a schoolgirl fantasizing a boy in a popular boy band might. "I miss you, Dan," Amanda said. "I miss you so much." She looked at the picture again. "We would have made a good team if you were still here." She felt tears well up in her eyes again. "You would have defended me. I wish you were here. I want you so much in times like this." She brushed the picture's face with her thumb and thought she could feel her skin, just a whisper of a memory, there beneath it. "I miss you, Danny. I love you." She kissed the picture again. "I hope you finally found some peace, but I hate that you had to leave me." "I'm going to England," she said to the picture. "I'm going to England to die. So maybe I'll see you soon. My Danny, maybe I'll see you soon." Amanda got up and placed the framed image back into her drawer and shut it. She sighed and took out her cell phone. She tapped a few buttons and called Alina. "Hi, Amanda," Alina said, sounding bright and happy. There was a lot of background noise and chattering. "Hey," Amanda replied. "Call your dad and tell him that Lisa and I will pick you up from school, taking you shopping like you wanted." Isn't he there in the office today? Couldn't you tell him?" Alina asked. "I don't think I can handle speaking to your father without kicking him in the teeth today. Sorry," Amanda said. "Why? What happened?" Amanda shook her head, as if Alina might understand, through the phone. I'd rather not discuss it, Alina," Amanda said. Just let him know." "Okay," Alina said. "Okay, I'll do that. See you after school." "Yeah," Amanda scoffed. "Now get back to your friends." "Bye." Amanda ended the call and slipped her phone back into her pocket. She looked at herself in a mirror for a second, deciding she didn't care what she looked like, and stepped out of the room. She locked it behind her and looked up to find Han waiting for her. Amanda gave him a dark look. "Get out of my way," she said to him. "I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you," he said to her. Amanda rolled her eyes. Yeah, fuck off," she said, trying to push past him. Han blocked her path and said, "Listen to me." He held her arms and said, "I didn't do this to put you in danger. I said fuck off," Amanda repeated, not trying to free herself, but becoming very tense. "Look at me," Han ordered. Amanda slammed the heel of her foot into his toes. He let go and hooted in pain, holding his front foot and hopping a little. "I hate you," Amanda told him, "and I will always hate you for this, if nothing else." Han growled. "If you hadn't realized, Amanda, I'm trying to protect the world from nihilists. You should be too." "I was," Amanda said. "Valfreya, fuck Valfreya," Han cried. "This isn't about—" "It is," Amanda exclaimed. "And just because you're too blind to see it doesn't mean it isn't. What is the worth of a world if you can't move your little finger unless she permits it?" Amanda stood up to him and looked him in the face. "We keep the world safe and ordered. We do not restrict it to our whims. We protect it from people who want only its end, but we don't enslave people. Valfreya was a custodian, a symbol of love, beauty, fertility, and also gold, black sorcery, war, and death. Valfreya intended to enslave the world, and now, through Briar and Shavi and you, she will, and I will be her conduit." "That won't happen," Han said. "Well, when it does, I hope you'll be proud of yourself. I won't be there to congratulate you, so take my blessing from now." Amanda shoved him. "Thank you for making a mess of things." She began walking away from him. Han called to her. "Where are you going? This isn't—" His phone started chiming loudly. "That would be your daughter," Amanda said, leaving him to it. She checked out of the building and met Lisa outside. It was a bright day and surprisingly chilly. Amanda hadn't noticed it with the warm central heating inside. She regretted not bringing her coat, but wasn't bothered to go and get it. "Andy," she said, taking out a cigarette and lighting it, "are we walking or driving?" "You know my answer," Lisa laughed, coatless and shivering herself. "Got another one of those?" "I don't share these," Amanda said, holding her cigarette between her fingers. "You know that." Lisa groaned. "Oh, come on, it's cold today," she pleaded. Amanda rolled her eyes and took out another. Lisa popped it in her mouth and Amanda lit it for her. They watched clouds stream from their mouths for a moment before Amanda tugged Lisa's sleeve and pulled her to the car. It was a small car, compact with a hybrid engine, dark in color. Amanda liked flashy cars, but she didn't like the idea of having one for the simple reason that it would probably get stolen before she had the chance to drive it very much. They got in, Amanda taking the passenger seat and Lisa taking the driver's seat. Funny, Lisa said, putting in her seatbelt and gesturing for the keys. You don't usually let me drive. Amanda passed her the keys and didn't bother with her seatbelt. Once Lisa started up the car, she rolled down the window and blew the smoke out of it. Amanda shrugged. I'm pissed. Probably run some poor sod down without realizing it if I take the wheel. So enjoy it while you can, she muttered. Lisa smiled and pressed forward, heading towards Alina's score. Oh, does that mean I get to choose the music? She asked. Sure, Amanda shrugged again. But if you have to ask, you probably don't deserve to. Lisa blew a raspberry at her and tuned the radio to something very EDM and loud. Amanda groaned under her breath and didn't say anything. So, Lisa said, turning the volume down a little, going home to England should be interesting, right? Amanda tapped her cigarette out the window. I thought we weren't going to talk about it. She put it out in the in-car ashtray. I think we should, Lisa replied. Why is that? Amanda said, looking over at her. And how would that help either of us? You want to have fun today, don't you? Well, yeah, Lisa said, but I'm sick of you coddling me and keeping me out of shit. I want to be included. What has that got to do with anything? Amanda asked. Lisa sighed. Moment of truth. I want to go to England with you and Han. Amanda didn't say anything. I want to do what you guys do, Lisa continued. I want to see the world and be with you when Han takes shots. I want to in on the action. I'm not a child anymore. I'm sick of you treating me like one. Lisa waited for Amanda to speak. Will I have to start calling you Lisa? She asked. Lisa furrowed her brows. No? Then it's your funeral, Andy. Amanda shrugged, looking out the window and seeing the colours and sights blur as the car zipped past them. Take it up with Han. Doesn't really matter what I have to say. And that was chapter 5. I hope you enjoyed this session. It's been an hour and a half. So yeah, I'm done with this session of reading. Tell me what you think. Leave me your comments. I had a good time reading it. I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope it was, chill and relaxing and all of that stuff. And I hope you are interested in the story and so on. I'm just going to read the comments and any final thoughts you guys have, please. Please do just feel free to comment. Okay, at junctures, you have to reassert what the situation is. No, they don't. Some stuff it up and suffer over things in the long term. So feminine, guys don't get to cry. No one disrespects to elders that much. It's just so primitive. Well, yeah, I kind of get that, but also Amanda's a very from start to finish. This is just the beginning of the story, so this is just her general attitude towards everybody. She's very undecided in how she is. She kind of jerks from emotion to emotion because she's very, very awkward. She has like a very not very nice past, which we will get into in the next few chapters. But yeah, I understand that. I definitely think that some of the conversation needs cleaning up, some of the description needs cleaning up. But yeah, I get that some of it seems very out of place and it doesn't fit together. But in terms of emotions, we do delve into Han a little more and the relationship surrounding him, because there's two main characters, Amanda and Han, and we do delve into that a little more. But Han definitely has a more solid and grounded exterior as compared to Amanda. Amanda's very much involved in her emotions. She's suffered a lot, and that comes much later in the story. But I think the jerking quality of her is initially meant to make you not like her as a protagonist. So yeah, I think maybe if I do end up doing a rewrite, because this is a completely unfinished story, if I do end up doing a rewrite, I will probably make it more apparent that there's a lot of baggage around her. But in this story that is, you know, again, it's like from 3 years ago, in this story, all of that comes out in small increments, like it comes out slowly as the story goes on. And I kind of struggled with whether or not I wanted to reveal all of that in the beginning or if I wanted to let it out in spurts and keep the mystery. So I was trying to maintain a kind of balance, but I get that, and that's fair criticism. But yeah, I do agree that some of the conversation is a bit out of whack. But that is 5 of the 17 existing chapters, I believe. Just checking. Yep, there's 17 chapters in total. So we managed to get through 5 chapters, and I would really, really like to continue, you know, reading through this. But yeah, someone who lacks respect is a person that is difficult to sympathize with, and you're kind of meant to feel that way about her at the moment. Same with a lot of the characters. I think a lot of the characters are very bitter, and there's a unifying reason for that. It's because they're very isolated and they have a very secretive kind of life, despite the fact that they have these outside relationships. Like Khan has his daughter, Amanda has this like role model relationship with his daughter and all of that, and they have to maintain this friendship, but also compartmentalize the fact that they're rivals and things like that, and they work in different sections of this secret organization. But yeah, I really enjoy this, and I hope you guys did too. And I really like doing this series, and I really, really want to continue. So I'm gonna put a pin in it for today. I genuinely hope that you enjoyed it. If you did like watching this live stream, please do remember to leave a like. If you have any comments, please do feel free to leave your comments as well. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. If you hated this, tell me why. Smash that dislike button, unsubscribe, roast me on my other social media platforms. Everyone is welcome here. Last comment from 72 Day Start: you should make a counterbalancing story element early on that makes us sympathetic. Possibly. I'll think about it, because I don't know if I want to rewrite this just yet. Because again, it is a concept that I've just put in the bin for the moment. Like, it's just in the ideas board. It's not completed. So if I do figure out how to end this, I might try to reframe the story a little. But anyway, I'm gonna end the live stream. We've been here for over an hour and a half, which is my standard live stream time, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye everybody, thank you for joining me, and I hope you had a good time, genuinely. And yeah, tomorrow we will be live streaming with some guests, and I hope you'll be around for that. That will be at 2 p.m. UK time, GMT. So yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.